Lisa Capalla. Welcome to Where's Wilmington? So today I'm going to be talking about that old adage that we've all heard, that everyone has at least one good book in them. My friend Tom McGonagle is living proof that that is true with his new book, relatively new we should say.
It came out in 2008.
So that's relatively new. The book is called Right on Cue, and as you could guess, it's a little bit about billiards, a little bit about life, all kinds of good stuff in here. Excellent summer read, by the way, if you want something that's quick and interesting. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it. So we're going to talk a little bit about why you decided to even write a book, Tom.
Well, a friend of mine showed up at a pool tournament in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and he was going to write a book about pool. And I said to him, why don't you write a story between The Color of Money, the present movie at the time,
right,
and The Hustler? And I gave him my ideas for the story, and he said to me, why don't you write it? and I thought about it, and I started corresponding with this gentleman. His name is Dr. Peter Griffin. He had written several books. And through a course of time, over a period of time, I started to get the ideas in my head about what I wanted to do. And I originally wanted to use Tom Cruise and Paul Newman in the story.
Right.
But through a series of events, I was told I couldn't use those characters.
Right.
Mrs. Tevis, who was Walter Tevis's wife, he had passed away during The Color of Money. She told me flat out she would sue me if I used the characters because her husband fantasized that he was Eddie Felson, and that was his lifelong dream, to be that pool player. So I went and did my own story, created my own characters, and I'm glad that I did it, because competing with those characters would have been difficult.
Right.
And at least now I have my own story.
Right, and then you'd always be being compared to...
Oh, yeah. It would have been a difficult comparison.
So how did you feel when you actually put those last few words to print, so to speak? How did you feel knowing that you actually had completed the journey?
My actual story was 3 times the size of this book.
Really?
And I hand wrote it. I printed it on composition paper or notebook paper.
Right.
Because I couldn't type at the time. And then I went to the Naturally Speaking, the thing that they advertise on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I actually dictated my book into my computer.
Oh.
And after I did that, I tried to get it published, and I got rejected. And I know why I got rejected. After they cut the book down to what it is today, I had a lot of stuff in there that I try to convince people that this story was believable by making it longer.
Right.
And they told me less is better.
Right. Well, I would say that's probably true, but it's still got a lot of meat in it. What I really liked about it, because I did read the entire thing, what I liked about it was how you explained the art of the con that is involved with people that play pool, or I hope people that play pool well know how to do that. Now, you've been playing pool since you were 13, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did you learn the art of understanding your opponent and being able to beat them using not just your pool skills, but obviously your mental acuity as well?
Well, a lot of the stuff I created in my story, I didn't do, but it's been done by other people.
Right.
I basically, a lot of times, told people, I'm better than you, and you won't be able to beat me. And that kind of made their ego get, I could beat this guy. Well, they come to find out they couldn't.
Right.
Most of them. I'm not the best player ever, but I'm one of the better players.
But I understand that your team has recently won a nice championship, right?
Oh, yeah. We won the district championship, my team out of the Center Cafe in Billerica.
Right.
We had
Which
a lot
is
of
how
success.
we actually became friends.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the style of pool that you play, because I know that there are different games one can play. What is your favorite that you consider to be expertise?
I'm a 9-ball player.
Okay, can you explain to the folks the different kinds of billiards games there are and what 9-ball is and why you like it?
Well, there's 8-ball, and that's basically stripes and solids, and a lot of people know that game.
Right.
Make the 8-ball after you've made your either stripes or solid.
Right.
Straight pool is a game where it's a continuous game. You can run hundreds of balls. Willie Moscone ran 526 balls in a row playing straight pool, But 9-ball, it's a rack of, it looks like a diamond shape when you rack the balls. There's 9 balls. And you make the balls in numerical order, always hitting the lowest ball on the table first with the cue ball, contacting that ball first. And any ball that goes in after that is it's a worthy shot. You get to shoot another shot after
Nice.
that.
Okay.
If you break and you obviously hit the 1 and you make the 9, you win the game.
How much do you think is skill of a pool player in the actual physical shooting, if that's what it's called, and the actual mental part of it? How much would you say? It's 50-50?
Oh, no.
75-25?
Some of the people I play, they're very good. They don't miss a lot of shots. A lot of times they might miss position. 9-ball, like I said, a 9-ball game, you're always after the lowest ball. And why I like that game is because we both have the same objective, to get that 1 ball.
Right.
And sometimes it becomes like a chess match.
I was going to ask you that.
And a lot of safety play and hiding the ball with the cue ball and making players go indirectly off rails to hit that object ball.
Right.
To me, it's the best game out there.
Okay. But if you plan ahead and then your opponent shoots differently than you thought he or she would, then you have to re-strategize on the fly, right?
Yeah, well, there's only one person at the table at a time. And that's the beauty of pool.
I see. Okay, excellent. Now, I understand that you play with headphones. I know some players use earplugs. Why do you do that?
I don't want to be distracted by something off the wall said by people. I want to concentrate. The music I'm listening to, I grew up with a lot of it, and it kind of brings me back to the old days of being in the pool rooms I grew up in sometimes. And it keeps nothing I don't want going into these ears to be distracted, because it's easy at the snap of something falls in the room and your mental focus is distracted, and it's hard to get that back sometimes.
Right, that's true. Do you think it's a handicap to play with the headphones, or do you think
Not
that
at
it
all.
makes you better?
Not
You
at
really
all.
think it makes you better?
I like it. I like
Excellent.
it because I'm easily distracted.
Now, well, we all are. Now, your main character in the book, he doesn't do anything like that.
No,
he
no,
actually,
no.
why don't you tell us a little bit about the main character? It's pretty interesting what you've done.
Well, I started out with my main character is a young boy who finds out he's not his real father isn't his real father. It's a pool player.
Right. So I think he's watching a match, and he
Yeah.
comes to learn
Oh,
that
yeah.
the man who's playing on television is, in fact, his biological father, and he's been living under the guise that this other person is his
Right,
father.
right.
That's a very big thing to have as a theme throughout the book. That really makes it interesting for not just people who play pool, but for people who are just interested in a good story.
Well,
too.
in all walks of life, things like this have happened.
Right.
And
Right.
and I know pool players, and I know a lot of them could. There's actually one really terrific pool player out there right now that he doesn't really know who his parents are.
That's interesting. So you
Or
kind
his
of gleaned
dad,
some
his
of
dad.
that from the story. And it's interesting how you weaved into the story different aspects of the game itself,
Oh, yeah.
like the pressure that someone faces when they're playing. How do you combat that other than wearing headphones?
Well, it's basically a game where you got to put up or shut up,
Right.
And you're out there, you're by yourself. You're your own coach. You're your own offensive coordinator, your own defensive coordinator. You're the whole ball. Everything.
So that's the good news and the bad news.
Yeah,
Because you really
yeah.
have nobody to blame but yourself if something goes wrong, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
but
how much do you practice playing the game in order to get to the level that you consider yourself now?
I might play 10 to 12 hours a week practicing.
Really?
Oh yeah, easy.
Really?
And play 2 to 3 nights
Wow.
competitively.
Okay.
So I'm at it a lot.
Are there different types of tables or types of sticks that you prefer more than others, and why is that
I
if you do?
prefer the diamond table. With
Meaning?
it's a professional table made just for professional tournaments. It's got smaller pockets
Oh, and why would that be good?
because now it's more skill.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I guess because you have more space, you have more room to actually hit it in, right?
Some tables have 5 1/4-inch pockets. The professional tables have 4 1/2-inch pockets. That's
Interesting.
3/4 of an inch, difference.
Right. So if you were training for a game, would you play on professional tables
Yes,
only?
yes.
Yeah. Now, I bet a lot of people don't know that. So if you go to play in a professional arena and you're not aware of that, your eye might tell you something's off, but you may not really quite realize it
Well,
until
all
you're
of a
shooting.
sudden, the balls are wiggling and going out of the pockets where you're used to them going into the pocket.
Right. Have you had any brushes with destiny when you were playing pool where you thought you were really down on your luck and you aced it with one shot?
I've been down a lot, and the first game of pool I ever played taught me a big lesson. I was down. The game took a week, and it took me a long time to finally make enough balls to win the game. But
wow,
I needed one ball. My opponent needed one ball, and I needed 7, and I won. I made the last 7 balls.
Wow. How does that apply to how your life works?
I try not to get too high or too low.
Right. You try to just maintain homeostasis like the rest of us.
Because pool can be a humbling experience. I recently played a big event out in Turning Stone Casino in New York, and I had an 8-2 lead, the first one to win 9 games, and I lost.
How'd you feel about that?
Terrible.
Right.
Terrible. I wanted to throw up, but I didn't.
Well, that's good. But the law of averages is that you can't win every single game.
Oh, no.
You've got to lose some, I would think.
Well, what happens is if I can beat you 8-2, why can't you beat me 8-0? You know, it's a game of momentum, and again, the person at the table has control. It's a game of control. If I can keep you in your seat and you don't shoot, it's the only game played that's like that.
So then I would guess that it really matters who breaks first, right? More than anything else, I would think that's got to determine everything.
The break is the biggest shot of the game. It's the way you either keep control or lose control.
How is it determined who breaks usually?
Sometimes you lag, sometimes you flip a coin. It depends on...
Lag, what does that mean?
That means you shoot your ball up to the back rail and come down, and who's ever closest to the other rail gets to break the ball.
Now, I would think that would be preferable to the 50-50 coin toss,
yeah,
right?
that's a skill. Yeah, that's a skill.
Okay. Have you ever hustled anybody, or has anybody ever hustled you?
I actually someone tried to hustle me in Texas.
Really?
And they didn't, you know, and he thought he was a real hot shot. And he won the first few games, and then I won several in a row, and he's kind of looking at me like, you don't even look like a pool player.
You don't, actually.
No.
And I would say most of the time you're a fairly quiet individual. So, you know, people usually think, oh, you know, he doesn't look like a threat.
There's a lot going on.
But you don't really
here.
know, exactly. Yeah. What do you want us to know about the book before we close today? You know, I thought it was an excellent read, and I think even if you don't play pool, just the whole profiling is really what pool players
but
do.
There is adult
fascinating.
material in there too, so don't let it near a child.
PG-13, folks.
At least.
That's okay. I got through those parts. There wasn't too much in there that was racy, but you need that in a love story.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, a child is conceived in the story, and
right.
as I say, it's hard to do that shaking hands.
That's true. That's true. What would you like folks to know about the book or about what's next for you? Are you thinking about writing a sequel?
I have started a sequel. I self-published this story. It cost me quite a bit of money to do that.
Right.
And I don't get a lot in royalties. Unfortunately, Amazon does real well.
Right. Well, that's how the publishing game works, I think.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's just good to actually see your idea come to fruition. Sometimes it's not always about the money. It'd be nice if you sold 1 million copies.
Well,
but,
if I told my parents that at 58 years old I would have had a book published, they'd still be laughing.
Well, I'm glad you did it.
I'm glad I did
And where
too.
can folks pick up the book if they're interested in taking a look at it?
It's on my website.
Which is?
Tom McGonagle, rightonq.com.
Excellent. And do you also offer pool lessons to folks that might want to learn?
Yeah, I offer group lessons, single lessons. It's all done in the privacy of my home, which I prefer to do because what happens at my house stays at my house.
Right. Well, and I do think pool rooms per se do have a somewhat seedy reputation, even though they're not that way. I mean, there are family pool
why I don't go
establishments.
into a pool room is because you're paying me for a lesson, and now 20 people start listening for nothing.
Oh, that's an excellent
And
point.
you're the one paying for it.
Right. And I would think, you know, private tutoring is better. You can actually take the time to go over everything. Do you go on field trips with the students after they get to a certain point? So
I've actually lost to some of my students.
Really?
Yes, I have.
Well, that's got to feel good.
Yeah,
you taught them everything you knew and more.
It's not a bad feeling.
Excellent.
But, you know, I don't want it to happen too often.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate your time, and I think what you wrote was really fascinating.
Thank
and
you.
I can't wait for the sequel to come out. What are you going to call it?
Miss Q.
Perfect. That's perfect. And thank you so much, Tom, for being with us. We'll be
Thank you,
right back
Lisa.
with more right after this. You're welcome.
1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European pro golf tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 110. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Hi, welcome back for the second half of Where's Wilmington as we continue on with the written word. So I had with us prior to the break Tom McGonagle, who's an author, and now I have the pleasure and privilege of introducing you to Matt Schooley, who is the local editor for the Wilmington Patch. Hi, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Nice to have you. So everybody knows about the Wilmington Patch, or if they
Like to
don't,
think so.
they will after today. Tell us a little bit about what the Wilmington Patch is, and then we'll talk about how you became the editor and what you were doing before that.
Yeah, I mean, basically the Wilmington Patch is, we like to be the source for community news, sports, events, just about everything Wilmington is what we shoot to be, and we're still growing, but we just want to be the source for everyone to know everything about Wilmington.
Excellent. And I know there are other patches in other communities. Do they all have their own editors?
Yes, every patch has a local editor who is in charge of the site, and there are sites nearby such as Tewksbury and North Reading, Burlington, all over the place, and we're actually all over the country as well, in 22 states.
Nice. So the patch isn't published per se, it's only online, is that correct?
Yeah, it's true. Basically, it's similar to a community newspaper, except you just go to the website only. Whatever town you live in, it's you go to the town.patch.com.
Excellent. So it's kind of like a virtual newspaper.
Absolutely.
So high tech, so state of the art. So I understand that you went to Springfield College. You graduated in 2007, right?
Yes.
What a coup for you to get this big editing job fresh out of school like that.
Yeah, it was fun. I started off when I was out of school, right out of school. I started in New Hampshire actually, and was doing news and sports for a community newspaper called Neighborhood News, and so it was learned a lot there that really has helped me since I started here in January, because you got to be able to do a little bit of everything. So I've done some sports and news, and so I do the same here.
Excellent. So we were talking a little bit before we started about how the Patch really doesn't have an office, because when we think of a newspaper, we think of a news office and printing presses, but you don't really have all that. Yeah. So do you do most of your work from home, from a laptop, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have the offices we have, we're owned by AOL, and so the corporate offices are in New York, and there's one in Boston, but for the most part, we all work from home, or a lot of the times work from coffee shops, libraries, our cars, things like that. Nice. So it's fun to really be out in the community, and that's what we really thrive on, is just being kind of a face. We all have on our laptops, we all have a sticker that says Patch, so anyone who's out and sees the guy with the laptop that says Patch on it, that's me.
I know that's you. How do you get the news that we see or that we read on the Patch? I know you have a lot of local contributors, but how does that funnel down to you, and how do you make sure things get covered?
Well, it's, just through that being out in the community, that's a big part of it. But the great part is that a lot of it comes from readers. Really? People will email and say, hey, this is happening, and I say, thanks for the heads up. I'd love to be there, and I'll go out and cover something. Or, obviously things like meetings and games are scheduled, so I'll plan the schedule to be at those events. But it really is a lot through emailing me on our Facebook page and Twitter as well. Those have really been great tools for reaching out and really getting to know the community of Wilmington.
Excellent. What challenges have you had to face since becoming the local editor of the Patch? It's got to be a lot of work. It looks lovely. Your site is lovely, easy to navigate. There's a lot of information there. I think anything anybody wants to know, they could pretty much find out. But that must require a lot of work on your part to make sure the website is accurate, flowing properly, doing what it says it's going to do. So what kinds of things have you faced that have been somewhat difficult, or what have you?
It's really just about finding a balance of really planning things out, and having the calendar definitely helps.
Right.
That's really the biggest thing.
You have a special editor, not to interrupt you, for the calendar, correct?
Yeah, we have a calendar editor for different sites in the region, and then for me, just having a personal calendar is planning my schedule is really the biggest thing.
So you make sure you come and be be on Where's Wilmington and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. It's on the planner. I got an alert on the way here on the iPhone.
Excellent, excellent. And as far as what the community calendar is, that's what I was talking about, but you're talking about a personal calendar. That has everything from soup to nuts on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, pretty much anything that's going on in the town is on there.
Yeah, and I use it a lot too because every day during the week we have a thing called 5 Things You Need to Know About Today, and it's basically just what it sounds like, 5 things, and it'll be the first one's usually the weather, so we like to let people know what the weather's going to be like in Wilmington, and then usually it's some events and things like that in town. If there's a meeting today, then that'll be one of the 5 things. So people can go onto one article and just get a quick rundown and see a couple things that are going on.
How do you handle breaking news when something changes? I mean, I would guess with the web, it's a lot easier to stop the presses, so to speak, than it would be if something already was to print.
It's a lot of fun, to be honest with you. To be somewhere at the scene of something and be uploading a picture onto Facebook and say, this is what we're working on now. We'll get you details on Twitter as well. And it's like you said, it's as it's happening. That's what we're there and we're working on it. And so it's really a lot of fun to do.
Excellent. Tell me about the new, or I think it's a somewhat new feature about the best deal. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the best deal, I mean, it's like you said, it's definitely new within the last couple weeks, and it's something that can help people in town track down where they can get bargains and things like that. It's located right at the top of the page, and that's one thing that we really like to help readers with is saving money, because it's really important right now. And we also have every Tuesday, we have a column called Frugal Family, which is it's 5 deals and 5 places in town, businesses that you can get, and kind of links back to our directory that we have on the site as well, which is a list of businesses, and most of them has what they do, their hours, things like that. And so if something happens at in a story that we're writing about that happened at, say, Chili's or even WCTV, we can link right to that part of the site in the story.
Excellent. So you have to be a multitasker, really, to do what you do.
Definitely, yeah.
Excellent. Now, what if someone watching wants to be a contributing writer to the patch? Not so much the blog, but we'll get to that in a minute. If someone actually is an author, do you have to actually be published already to write for you, or can you just be a regular Joe?
Not necessarily. I mean, if someone is a freelance writer specifically, they're welcome to email me at matthew.schooley, which is SCHOOLEY @patch.com. That's not everybody can spell that one, but
just like it sounds. It'll be on the
School with
screen.
an EY.
It'll be on the screen for you.
And so yeah, they can email me if they want to be a freelancer per se, but anyone who just has, say, a press release or just a news tip can do the same. Just email me, and I'm happy to talk to people. You
do have some pretty heavy hitters as far as your writers. I was looking over the contributing writers. You've got some really good talent on your staff.
We really do.
there.
We've got Christine McKenzie writes a lot, and she's really involved in the community, and she's a really talented writer. And Bruce Hilliard takes a lot of photos, and he's got an incredible eye for photos, and he does a weekly photo gallery on Thursdays, so that's good as well.
Cool. Tell me a little bit about volunteerism and the patch and where your stand is on that, because when I clicked on that tab, I thought that was a pretty unique concept that the patch has developed, and I'd like to talk to people a little bit about that, especially because in Wilmington and probably other areas too, kids now are required to have so many hours community service before they graduate. So let's talk a little bit about the volunteer part.
Yeah, it's a big part of what Patch was founded on, and we were actually founded when they were putting the site together. It was because they thought, I would love to have somewhere where I could find places to volunteer in the town. So we have that on our sites now, where there's organizations listed and things like that. And Patch employees also, we have a program called Give 5 where we shoot to volunteer at least 5 days a year. And so I've done some events at the library. I did some photographing for them and things like that.
Okay. So it's basically like a virtual community center where
absolutely.
people can look. You also have job postings on there too.
And
so it's
garage sales as well.
It's like a real newspaper. You would expect that it has everything. I didn't see horoscopes or crosswords in there, but I'm sure that'll be the next thing. But
there's always something coming.
If folks are looking for work, they can check the postings there as well, right?
Even to the extent of if there's a wall or a portion on the right side of the site where you can comment or post about, if you have a question or something like that.
Right.
Even if someone just says, if we're looking for a job, could even just post there, say, hey, I'm looking for a job.
I was looking at that section, the Q&A section. Somebody was asking about caterpillars. Did anyone else in the town experience caterpillars?
And people did.
People actually answer. So that's really kind of neat too.
And I think in that case, we actually ended up writing a story. Christine, I think, went out and talked to some people and took some pictures, and it ended up turning into a story. So that's how a lot of when you're going back to what you're asking about, where the news comes from, that's where a lot of it comes from.
Do you fear that what you're doing is going to make the actual real newspaper obsolete?
No, that's definitely not our goal of doing. We actually work really well with other news outlets and things like that. When someone one of the papers in town or someone else does it, has a good story, we're happy to post it on our Facebook page. And I know that other outlets do the same for us, because when there was a drug bust in town that I had some video of, Fox 25 actually ran the video on their 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock newscast. So it's, we're not out to get people.
No, I'm sure you're not, but I know that, people tend to like tradition, and I was
definitely.
wondering if there's anybody who might be anti-patch because they want the actual newspaper that they can touch in their hands. So I was interested to see what your thoughts on that might be.
No, it's definitely an interesting topic, but, I think there's a place for everybody.
Excellent, excellent. Is there anything final you'd like anybody watching today to know about the patch, or anything you want to share with us before we close the program today?
Yeah, we'd love for anyone that hasn't seen the site, they can just visit it at wilmington.patch.com. Anyone, as I mentioned earlier, can email me at matthew.schooley@patch.com. And also, we just went over 700 Facebook followers the other day, and we want to keep increasing that, and we're on Twitter as well. So if you search Twitter or Facebook for Wilmington Patch, we'll come right up. And
Excellent.
It's a great way to be kept up to date on the news.
Cool. One other thing I did want to ask you about was the blog. I forgot that we were going to cover that. Can you tell me a little bit about the Patch blog and how that works?
It's a relatively new, couple months old, I believe, feature, and anyone with an opinion, a voice can blog for us, and they just apply to be a blogger, and it's very easy. The system makes it really easy to use. You create a new blog, just type it out and upload it, and then it gets onto the site, and it's a great way for people. It's called Local Voices, and it's just that, people in town just can express their opinions and things like that.
So that would be akin to the letter to the editor type feature that you would have in a regular newspaper.
Yeah, and we also do run letters to the editor as well, and so it can be kind of a separate entity, but it's it's a great way to get the community involved.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Matt, for coming down today, taking
me.
your time to be with me, and also thank you for what you're doing in the community. And I did want to say congratulations on your recent wedding.
Thank you very much.
And it was great to have you. I know everybody's going to be reading the Patch and getting involved more and more. The site is really awesome, very easy to navigate. You're welcome. A lot of good information there, so I urge you to take a look at it when you get a chance. And just reminding you that you're watching Where's Wilmington? So the next time somebody asks you, where's Wilmington, you tell them right here and right here on WCTV. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.